manager indicated, this is a presentation intended to introduce the facilities sustainability plan. It was identified by council as a top priority action item in the process we just completed recently. The purpose of my presentation tonight is to define and describe the process and to provide some information about the issues which are summarized here, that within two of our major buildings, Village Hall and the police station, we have significant maintenance needs as well as operational challenges. But to begin with the process, this visual depicts a process that we've laid out over a 12-month period of time that includes at least monthly public meetings on this topic. It's intended to be a deliberative process and provide many opportunities throughout for public input with the intention of bringing the community along with us as these important decisions are made. You can see there are also 4 phases that are represented as well. First, introduction of the issue. Then pretty quickly we get into some discussion about resources, resource availability, and those resources can take many forms, such as available revenues, financial tools, land, underutilized or available space, and partnerships. So that all happened during the months of October through December. That then conversation then shifts to discuss options that we might consider. We've allowed the first half of 2016, if necessary, for that discussion, ultimately culminating in a plan that allows us to incorporate it as part of the 2017 budget and future years as well. Provide a little bit of reference for those who are unfamiliar with the properties that we're talking about. The area that's bounded in yellow is the village-owned Civic Center site, and you can see the Burlington Northern Railroad track crossing diagonally through the picture, and the major facilities that exist on this site currently: the police station, Village Hall, and the fleet maintenance facility. A little bit of history. The Village Hall actually moved into this building in 1969. It was constructed in 1929, originally as a ball bearing factory, and then occupied by the village in the late 60s. The police station was constructed in the late 70s, occupied in 1979. And those are the 2 buildings upon which most of the focus exists regarding maintenance needs. And to talk a little bit more about that, quite a bit of work has been done to understand what those needs are, including 2012 facility condition assessment. And these were some of the general conclusions of that assessment. Of the 7 major buildings that the village owns, 3 of them are in maintainable condition, between excellent and fair. You can see on the scale on the right. The 2 buildings that we're talking about tonight and through this process received a below average condition, which in the categorization of this study equates to requiring major renovation. The assessment further went on to identify preliminary estimated maintenance costs in order to bring the building's condition, to improve the condition of both of these buildings. The estimated cost of all of the projects that were identified in these assessments was $3.7 million for the police station and $6.7 million for Village Hall. These reports are on our website. They're very extensive, have a lot of detailed information, including the methodology that was used to determine these cost estimates. Providing a little bit more of a understanding of some of those specific projects, I just wanted to highlight a few, really the most significant projects in terms of maintenance needs within the 2 buildings. So first, the police station, where we have the HVAC system replacement. electrical system upgrade that was also identified, window replacements, installation of an elevator, because the building currently is not accessible and does not meet ADA requirements, and roof replacement. Turning to Village Hall, you see a lot of the same maintenance needs, because this is an older building and a larger building, the dollar amount and the magnitude tends to be greater. So again, the HVAC system replacement was identified, the upgrade of the electrical system, replacement of the roof, boiler replacement, passenger elevator installation, and those represent just some of the most significant maintenance needs within the Village Hall facility. To touch a little bit on operational challenges, and there's quite a bit of information on our website as well, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, and if people want to understand in greater detail, they can look at the facilities plan page. But we have a number of areas within the police station, because it was built at a time in the late 70s, where law enforcement practices were quite a bit different than they are today, and safety standards and other regulations have changed over time, that because of the station has not been significantly upgraded, we have a number of operational challenges that exist in the booking room, in our evidence processing area, and you can see in this visual a comparison of the Downers Grove facility on the left and a newly constructed police station of comparable size on the right. Evidence storage, similar story, the Downers Grove police station on the left and a modern facility on the right. The prisoner removal area, the interview room, this exists right off of the lobby in the police station. And again, a comparison of the investigations area in the Downers Grove police station compared to a modern facility. With vehicle parking, as you can see, ours are out in an exterior or a parking lot exposed to the elements, and many modern stations today have interior vehicle parking provided. Turning to Village Hall, there are certainly some operational challenges in this building as well. They tend to be less significant than you saw in the police station. So the public lobby is rather confined in terms of its space. We have challenges in providing flexible public meeting space environments. A good example is that the ADRB and the ad hoc subcommittee is meeting over at the Public Works facility because it really is the only building in town that can house a group of that size with the kind of room dynamics that we were looking for. The space to meet with permit applicants, which is right off of the lobby in Village Hall. And although there is quite a bit of space throughout the building, what you'll find is that there's an inefficient interior layout also in this facility. Another challenge is that we have multiple public access points. Again, all this information that I've just described is available on our website and can be accessed through the Facility Sustainability Plan page. I thought it might be useful to share a few other images because there are certainly portions of this building that very few people actually get to see. Even staff members have rarely been to some parts of the Village Hall and Police Station building that you'll see in some of these images. These tend to be toward the back of the building and reveal more of its industrial origins. This is the area below that stairwell took you down to. A small garage in the back of Village Hall, an adjacent storage room. This is a stairwell actually on the other side of the committee room that literally goes nowhere except for a small room with an old generator in it. Some may not know that we actually have cells in the Village Hall building. They house records and not people, though. And then turning to the police station, and, again, areas that most residents typically don't see, some of the long sort of cavernous corridors in the central area of the police station building on the upper level, and then one of the other evidence storage rooms shown here. So again, to bring you back to the visual showing the buildings in their location, a little more information was added, and this again is on that the website, but it shows the size in square footage and the number of staff in terms of full-time equivalent that function within the two buildings, police station and village hall. And it's pretty easy to conclude just from this information alone that police certainly is small for the needs that building has, and whereas village hall has quite a bit of potentially more space than necessary, albeit carved up in ways that make it very, very inefficient. What's interesting, and not everyone understands, the history of Village Hall, it's had many changes in its use over the last 20 years. And in that period of time, employees from the Public Works Department, the VOC, or our dispatch operations, and fire prevention, all used to be within this building and moved out to other locations. This site also used to accommodate traffic court, and there has also been a significant reduction in staffing since the onset of the recession and the decisions that have been made over time to reduce personnel expenses, primarily by examining a lot of positions as they became open to see if they were really needed. So again, just a very brief introduction intended to get the conversation going, but I want to remind you that it is a lengthy process that we intend to devote a lot of time and attention to. I'm certainly available to answer any questions, and we look forward to the meetings to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Appreciate the presentation, and I think it's probably an understatement to say that there's a lot more detail available in the places that you identified as part of your presentation, and those who truly want to be scholars of this issue should avail themselves of those resources, because time does not permit us to go through all the materials that have been compiled on this topic. Questions or comments from Council? Commissioner Olson?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a great start to a process. I think it's worth emphasizing and re-emphasizing a point that's been made, I think on a number of occasions that Mayor, you just referred to, that there's been a number of, there's a lot of information out there. There's been a lot of information that's been put together over a number of years and a number of iterations. As most will recall, this issue, we were discussing this issue in quite a different format just several months ago, especially last year. Given the results of the referendum on the conceptual plan that was put forward at that time, and the citizen-initiated referendum, and the changeover in council with 3 new faces joining this council, I'm very pleased to see a process where we can step back and sort of hit the reset button on this, while not losing all the great work that's been done before and explaining the issue and understanding the issue. I think that really benefits us here, that we're able to move quickly, and Mr. Baker was able to give this presentation to share this information with us. But I think I very much appreciate that this is going to be an extensive process, and I look forward to the engagement of course, my colleagues on the Village Council, but also the community at large, those here in the audience tonight, those watching on TV, and those who aren't joining us right now. I think that it's very, very important to me that this be a process that creates and generates community engagement. Community engagement with this decision. This is a large decision for the community. We have these 7 major facilities that Mr. Baker shared with us at first, and I think decisions on how to go about addressing some of the concerns, some of the questions, some of the issues that exist, both deferred maintenance issues and the operational challenges. I think it's a really important community conversation. And given that the interest that I know the community has in this topic, I look forward to this process. I appreciate the work staff has done to set up a process that can really engage the community and keep the community up to date at every point. And I look forward to the active engagement of the community, of my colleagues, and of course, our staff in providing a great deal of work, time, and effort to ensure that the decisions that ultimately are made through this process are good decisions that the community can support, are good decisions that are financially and sustainable, and that are a good use of our resources as we are stewards of the tax dollars of this community. So I just appreciate the presentation. I appreciate the kickoff of this issue. It's going to be a very important issue, and I just want to once again encourage the community members to take a look at the items that are on the website. I want to encourage the community members, if you're unable to access the website for whatever reason, please come by Village Hall, give us a call. If you need copies of materials, please let us know. It's very important that everyone is engaged in whatever way you can be engaged, whether it's here at these meetings, whether it's sharing comments via email, via letter, via phone. It's very, very important to us as a council, I know, and as the staff works on this. We all are looking forward to your engagement. So I just really wanted to share that, and I think that's all I've got, Mayor.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Wallach at this point?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, and for those of us who are familiar with the issue, there's really no surprises in there. But the important thing is that we're getting it out to the public, because months ago, if we did man-on-the-street interviews and say, hey, we need a new police station or we need a new village hall, the average resident would question it and may even be upset by the fact that we're going to go get a new police station, go get a new village hall. Are you kidding me? It works. But now I think there's been a dramatic shift. I don't know if it's tilted yet, but it has been a shift, that people are concerned about the situation of the police station, and they're questioning what's happening with the village hall. So we're getting it going, but we started the conversation, and now, as Commissioner Olson said, we look forward to the public actually participating and understanding the decisions that we make. My comment about the process, I talked to the village manager, Dave Fieldman, about this. And we're looking at looking at the current state of facilities, and then we're going to look at funding sources type of thing, and then come to some decisions of what we're actually going to do. And I kind of compared to going out and buying a car. You need a car, so you have your needs and your wants, and is it better to go out and list your needs and wants, and then see how much it's going to cost, and then see if you can afford it, and kind of change your priorities? Or do you determine how much money you got or can get, and then go, maybe in some cases with a car, maybe you got a car loan coming, so you decide how much money you're going to spend, and then you go out and get it. Well, you find out if you have maybe you go out and get that Lamborghini because you had a lot more wants than needs. So, I'll be looking over the process to determine whether it's a good idea to do costs first and our financial situation, and then go out and buy what we can get, or whether it's do the needs and wants and then go out and see if we have the money to cover it. I don't know, maybe 6 of one, half dozen of another, but you want to make sure that if you determine how much money you have, that you just don't spend it all on your wants and, include all the extra wants in there. So we got to be careful. So I'll be looking at the process, and this is a good first step. And like Commissioner Olson says, everybody keep an eye on this, because we need your help. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Jose?
Thank you, Mayor. I do think it's great that we're re-engaging folks in this process. I think we had a lot of engagement in it last year, over the last 18 months or so. We had a lot of folks here at Village Hall for a couple of town meetings, a couple hundred at least, if memory serves. And I've yet to talk to anybody who's actually toured the police station facility and said that it didn't need, at the very least, dramatic renovation. In most cases, complete and total replacement. As Commissioner Waldeck said, there's no surprises in the presentation from tonight. We know what these challenges are. We've known since 2009. I think if you search around the village website and various local news outlets, blogs, you find postings about the need for a new police department, a new police station back then. With regard to the conversation that's coming, I think the analogy of buying a car is kind of interesting, but from my point of view, we know what the resources are that we have at our disposal. We've crunched the numbers on that over the last year and a half during the last process that we had. And I think we have a good idea of what the operational challenges are and what is necessary in order to solve them. And the real question is, what problems are we going to solve? And then what resources are we willing to spend in order to solve them? And for me, it's a sliding scale. If we're solving a large number of problems, then I think the opportunity to get more resources may be warranted. If we're only solving a very small number of problems, then I think it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to put very many resources behind it. So I look forward to the conversation about what the options are in terms of renovation, in terms of expansion, in terms of replacement, so that we can really have a good conversation in terms of what it is that we're willing to solve and the resources necessary in order to solve it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Barnett?
Thanks, Mayor. You might want to mark this down. I agree with everything Bill said. That's pretty momentous. Yeah, write this down.
I've got 8:20. Okay,
Got it?
at 8:22 p.m.
Fantastic. And really, Greg,
Motion to adjourn?
good call, Mayor. Well done. That was the best comment yet. And Dave, Greg jumped on too. From my standpoint, this process is way too long. Some of the things that were said was that there's no surprises, there's nothing new. This goes back to 09, I think it goes back to 07, maybe a little before that. This conversation has been had and had and had again. This is a political question. That's all this is. There's a sliding scale, to be sure, as with every expenditure we make. This is a political question. The question is does this body want to incur debt to build new facilities, or do we want to try and operate on a pay-as-you-go basis? With that kind of a question decided, our staff can give us a dozen great sliding scale options, no question. The last, elections have consequences, and 80% of the public said, don't spend that kind of money. And they said it, did they say it for that plan? Sure, I suppose. It really wasn't defined in the referendum question. We all know you can't do that. But what they really reacted to was don't spend a ton of money on village facilities, because that doesn't feel good. It's not plowing, it's not fighting fires, it's not the stuff that feels good to residents. So what I would suggest we do is I would suggest we spend the next, I don't know, something quick, 90 days rehashing all the details that we already know about what resources are available to us and what our problems are and what we'd like to fix. But I'd suggest that the folks that are new up here that were largely responsive to the public's outcry against these facilities decide what it is that they're willing to spend, not in dollars, because obviously that's the sliding scale thing Greg was talking about, but the more fundamental question is, are we going to incur debt, or are we going to operate on a pay-as-you-go basis? Because we can talk for 12 months about boilers, and we can talk for 12 months about operational issues, and we can have if, then, what if, all kinds of things with sliding scales, but it comes down to the finances part. And if we believe the public said in that referendum question that they really don't want to spend that kind of money on public facilities, and I think they did, then it changes the conversation dramatically, and we would spend 12 months, repeating conversations that we've had since 2007 to largely no avail. So I'd encourage everybody to think over the next 3 weeks until we do this again, a little more in that vein. The question and its various components is really well defined. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, but we're not, if we think that the public's direction is don't incur a bunch of new debt, then that's going to decide our path forward, whether we need 12 months to talk about it. So I think it's a political question that we all need to answer that has very little to do with the good work staff would do over 12 months' worth of meetings. So, my 2 cents on it, Mayor.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Bettino, do you want to chime in?
I just want to say I look forward to the process, and I really hope something can get done. Police station does need to get, the police station really does need work. I did tour the police station, and they need a better place to work. So I think everything should stay in town. I've said that before many times, and I look forward to the process.
Thanks. I think without question, the problem is well-defined. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time defining the problem. The problem existed in 2001 when I first got elected to this council. There was a plan in 2007 for how to solve the problem that didn't at that time get a lot of fanfare, but 2007 was a very different time than 2015, let's face it. In 2007, there was going to be a whole new construction project. The plans were drawn up. You can look at the nice drawings, where things were going to go, what was going to happen. And then the Great Recession happened and everything went off a cliff and the plans were swept aside, rightfully so, because of the change in circumstances. Well, it's now 2015, and the problem that existed in 2001, 2007 has not gotten better. It's only getting worse. That deferred maintenance doesn't just stay in limbo. As any homeowner knows, ignoring it does not make it better. It makes it worse. So the problem is well defined. We have a problem, and it's $10 million and growing. That's well known, and there's not a whole lot of debate there, and I agree with some of my colleagues. No one has really taken issue with that. But to go back to the car analogy, what we did have is an understanding that the vehicle was required, and the vehicle needed to do certain things, but the one that was on the lot, the prospective buyer didn't purchase. The prospective buyer walked off the lot. What we found out is that through no bad intent and through no lack of trying, there was an option that was put together. It tried to achieve a lot of different things, and some folks would say, if you try to design a horse by committee, you're going to end up with a camel. Let's face it, a lot of people in the community thought that the last proposal, for one reason or another, whether it was the size of the hump or what it looked like or this or that or something else, they weren't buying that car. But we still need a car. So now we're going through a process of figuring out, let's come together as a community and find out what type of car this family, which is called Downers Grove, does want to buy. There's no question that we need one. Because that $10 million isn't going away, it's only going to grow. And if you look at a lot of the macroeconomic and microeconomic factors, material costs go up, inflation, cost of money go up. Sitting on our hands and not doing anything is not an option. Never has been, and it won't be, because it'll just cost us even more money, and then we'll become in this state of paralysis, and that's not a good thing. No question about it, the car that was offered on the lot last time was not accepted by the prospective buyer. So now we got to go back to the drawing board and come up with a solution that is something that the purchaser is willing to buy. Some of the things we got to talk about is not just about the cost, it's also about the functionality. Because if you need a car and you have a family of 6 and you buy a car that seats 4, it doesn't make a lot of sense. You might save money, but you haven't achieved the purpose of the vehicle. So we need to factor in functionality here. It's really a twofold problem. It's not just the deferred maintenance issue. It's also about fixing up facilities that still will then not accomplish what a modern municipality and a modern police force need to do. We want to not plan for the now, we want to plan for the future responsibly and economically and feasibly, of course, but we want to look down the road to what are the needs of this community going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now, not what they were in 1969, nor not necessarily what they are today. Otherwise, again, we're throwing good money after bad. We don't want to do that. But we do need to have a supported solution. I think Commissioner Olson used the word sustainable. Sustainable can mean a lot of things, but it's one that can be supported by our means. We want to be able to, like our residents, live within our means, but we also want to do something that allows us to achieve what this community needs in the future, not just what it necessarily needs today. We can see how our community is changing. It's changed in many ways a great deal in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Without having to gaze into a crystal ball, we can reasonably anticipate changes going forward. We can also anticipate some trends, including the partnership concept that's been talked about, the opportunity and ability to engage more partnerships down the road, and having a facility that facilitates those kinds of partnerships, not one that doesn't deter them. During one of those town hall meetings, there was a gentleman in the audience that stood up and was adamantly opposed to the proposal that was put forth last time because he didn't see that the value proposition had been sufficiently proven. And that resonated with me because he may have said it in a different way, but I think that value proposition or sell me on the value proposition is one that clearly that didn't happen last time. It goes back to the car analogy. I think people understood that the car was necessary, but they weren't convinced the one that was sitting there with the price tag on it, with the manufacturer's suggested retail price in the window was the one they wanted or that we should buy. So I think we do need to focus on this process, not so much in defining the problem, because I think the problem is well defined, and I think that the cost of that problem is well defined. But I think whatever solution we end up going towards or options that we study, we need to answer that question. What's the value proposition? For $1, what's the return? What does the value translate to this community? And again, I think that takes into advantage not only our current problems and our current challenges, but I think that takes into account future challenges and future problems. So I think that's what we kind of have to work on. In terms of the time frame, would I like to have solved this thing 10 years ago? You betcha. But that's not where we are today. And I think going forward, I think we have a time frame that's out there that will allow for a supported, sustainable solution. But if we're getting buy-in and that, that person who's on the lot is doing a lot of head nodding, like, yeah, okay, you're proving that value proposition to me. I can see why this vehicle makes a lot of sense. I can see why maybe I need to do X, Y, and Z in order to obtain this solution. Then I think we can move faster if necessary. But I think the timetable that's been laid out is one that allows for that to happen and encourages it, doesn't discourage it. But if we end up being able to come to a supported, sustainable solution sooner than what the timetable permits, then I don't see any reason that we need to put our foot in the brakes and go back to the car analogy. But I think we want to make sure that everyone's with us on this bus as we go forward, even understanding that no matter what we do, we're not going to make everybody happy. I think there's an old saying that it is not possible to please everyone, but it is possible to disappoint everybody. And we're not going to be able to please everyone, but what we don't want to do is disappoint everybody. We want to have a solution that makes sense, that is sustainable, and that most of the community can support and give us those head nods that, yeah, that kind of makes sense going forward. We may have a different bucket of options in front of us this time. I mean, things changed, things continue to change. And we learned some things through the process last time, and I think even though it wasn't ultimately successful, it was one that provided us with additional information that we didn't have. And I think we're going to take all that, and we already have begun to take all that and fold it into this batter, and we're going to go forward. We got to get this solved. No question about it. It's only going to cost us more heartache and headache and problems going forward, and that's what we don't want to have happen. So I would say that simply engaging the community is not sufficient. I think we need to make sure that the community is, and how you define it, I don't know if I'm prepared or even capable of telling you how to define it, but I think we need to have a situation where the community is not just engaged, but we've got a pretty good sense that they're with us on this. I think that's what was missing last time. We want that person on the car lot to actually be happy with their purchase, for the most part. Usually the case is. So I'll stop there. Glad that we're getting back to this, because this is, I think we had what did I mention earlier, top, high, and other priorities. If there was a super ultra top priority, this would probably be it. this needs to get solved. So I think we're all, as a community, going to be able to figure it out and get it done. And I'm confident that we will. With that big introduction, you've heard us speak now for a good amount of time. Thoughts, comments, suggestions from the audience. As mentioned, we want to continue the engagement. I think we're very glad that the level of awareness and attention to this is probably never been higher than it has in recent months. I want to leverage that and take advantage of that, and again, get this puzzle solved. Thoughts, comments, questions from members of the audience? Obviously, we're going to be talking about this for some time. Good evening.
Good evening. John Palifa, 6016 Washington. I've been quiet for a few weeks.
That doesn't mean you get 20 minutes. It's not cumulative.
I would urge staff and the council to really have an open mind. Consider adaptive reuse. If in fact you were to build a new police station, the old police station could start out as the bones for a new village hall, remodeling an addition. Be very careful if, well, let's put it this way, I'm going to be very careful if you decide to hire a consultant, because the question you ask the consultant is the answer he's going to give you. Should the village of Downers Grove build a new village hall? Well, he's going to say yes, and he's going to justify it. Fleet maintenance. A year ago, fleet maintenance had to be moved to Ogden Avenue. Tonight, there was nothing mentioned about fleet maintenance other than it's on the village property here. Is it in great condition? Does it function perfectly? I think not, but it wasn't mentioned. I think that's something you're going to have to consider. I think whatever you do, central location would be a good idea. And probably the one thing that disturbed me more than anything else was to see the blue tarp again on the police station. 2007, I toured the police station, the blue tarp was pointed out to me, and I was told that the skylight had leaked for years. So we're talking about a consistent leak for over 10 years. There are products available. Sika Roof is one of them. It's a translucent material that you could coat a skylight and stop the leaks. I just have to wonder if that wasn't left as a photo op. Again, I certainly hope that you keep an open mind.
Thank you. Other thoughts, questions, or comments? I think by the end of this night, he's going to make Eagle Scout.
He keeps saying, "Mom, please."
No, they didn't tell you, this is the test.
So I'm Carol Maha again at 5855 Janes Avenue. Just to the last point you made, Mayor, about engaging the community and finding out ways to engage with the community. To be here tonight, as a busy mom, like we all know, I'm at the stage of life where there's kids running in 150 directions. I had to find 2 other moms to take a carpool. I'm watching my phone to make sure homework's getting done at home with the people that are left there, and trying to manage all these things. Use social media to engage with us. If you want to hear what we're thinking about spending money, I understand that there's a process, I understand that there's meetings, but there are opportunities through social media, Facebook, SurveyMonkey, I don't know how many people are on Twitter. Every single Downers Grove mom is on Facebook. So if you're trying to engage with the community, find easy ways that we can quickly give you feedback, and I bet you're going to get a lot more participation and hear the thoughts of them rather than the people that can come out to the meetings, because I'm deeply, deeply appreciative of the time that you guys put into watching the careful spending and careful running of this village that we all love, but not everybody can devote that time. So think about the social media options that you have in order to engage with us.
Sure, good suggestion, and one that we've taken to heart because we've utilized social media. We also have utilized a virtual town hall meeting where people were able to participate by watching the meeting on their computer and emailing in questions or sending them through Twitter. So people didn't even have to leave their homes in order to engage. The one thing we want to be careful about, though, is that we have participation, we also have informed participation. because answering, simply posing a question to someone without giving them the respect and dignity of providing them with an adequate basis and answer the question or to inform their judgment isn't doing either the person asking the question or the person answering the question any justice. And so one of the things that we really want to encourage people to do is to go back and understand the issue before casting a judgment. It's something that no matter what we do, we typically try to make sure that folks can do that. So that's engagement is a two-way street. Yes, the village has to be out there and is out there in many different respects. Also respecting some people choose not to be on social media, so we have to be respectful of folks that like things the old-fashioned way, which is going to the library and checking out a hard copy. There's a large segment of our community that, for various reasons, doesn't want to be on Facebook, and we have to be also respectful of them, that saying that that's the way we're going to get our major source of information doesn't, at the same point, push aside a different segment of town. So we really have to communicate across the board. But yes, we've utilized a lot of different mechanisms to get the issue out there. I think that the last 6-9 months have probably brought it to a fever pitch, and everybody everywhere has heard something about it, and we'll continue to utilize all the means and resources within our ability to make sure that whatever options are explored are understood and that we sell that value proposition. Thank you for your comments and suggestions. Stay tuned. Questions or comments other questions or comments from the audience before I come back to the council? So we can find out that we all have different opinions, we all disagree. We're all going to figure out how to design a horse that doesn't look like a camel. Commissioner Olson.
Just one final comment. I know I spoke considerably already, but I think the importance of this process is, as the mayor pointed out, the issue is fairly well defined. That's why we're spending one meeting on that, and then we're getting right into the resource discussions, the option discussion, and then the plan in a very deliberate process. With, I would suggest that this is not an item where, I'm coming in saying, oh well, I have understanding of the issue, but in terms of the resources and that, coming in without preconceived notions of we need this, we don't need this, we shouldn't, we need to build a new village hall, we need not to build a new village hall. These type of things, let's have the discussion and let's go through the process and in an engaged way with the community. And as the mayor pointed out, engagement, the community became very engaged in this issue in the last election. I mean, nearly 4,000 people signed a referendum petition to get a referendum question on this issue, so they're quite engaged on the issue. But the mayor's correct, buy-in is very important. So I look forward to the process. Thank staff for their work, and look forward to the public and council engagement.
All right, more to come. Thank you for all who here tonight and commented so far. There are many ways to provide input on this topic, and that includes new ways and ways yet to come. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Baker.
Thanks.